Hi, I'm Larry Mike Arenda, and welcome again to Smithtown Town Council Update. With us, Ed Werheim. Ed, it's 2011. What is the financial status of Smithtown right now?
Well, Larry, first of all, thank you very much for having me back, and a happy belated New Year. I know it's been a while since I've been here, and I'm happy to be back. I can tell you gladly that the fiscal situation in Smithtown, as we discussed last year, for 2011 is still in very, very good shape. We just completed our budget for 2011, and at the end of the day, we still hold our surpluses. We still have an excellent bond rating. So fiscally, Smithtown is a very sound municipality.
Now, you've been very frugal, the town council, with the budget. Again, out of all the other towns in Suffolk County who have basically been dipping into the red, Smithtown has stayed in the black, has been able to come up with better services and cost-cutting measures without really affecting overall service in the town, which is not an easy thing. Do you mind telling the public a little bit about that?
Sure. One of the ways we do that is, and it's quite simple, you hear it all the time on the national news about the federal government and the state of the country. Simply, we just do not spend what we don't have. We keep our ample surpluses to keep our bond rating up. One of the ways we have done that in the past is through employees. I think last time I was here, we had a discussion about that's where the money is. That's what the lion's share of tax dollars go to, is employee salaries and benefits. So this particular budget cycle, we have, I believe at this time, 12 full-time items that are still frozen. There were 13, there are now 12. We intend to keep those items frozen through 2011 and ask our department heads to do the best job that they can without them. They've done that in the past and done an excellent job at that. So that's one of the ways we do it. Also, we look at expenditures from department to department in the form of equipment, heavy equipment for highway and sanitation, and we limit that. If there's a piece of heavy equipment that may cost $250,000 and we can get through another year with it, which is actually what happens most of the time, we ask that department head to please do that and put it off to the following year, and we've done that in this budget.
Now, one of the things, Ed, that happened this winter, and as you know, we had left off in November, December, right before the holidays, was this snow has been a budget breaker for every other town. How has Smithtown survived it?
Well, first, what I'd like to say is I'd like to applaud Glenn Jorgensen and the men in the highway department, also our parks department, traffic department, and multiple service facility. They did a yeoman's job this winter. As we all know, I think it was the 6th worst winter in history. All those departments combined did a fantastic job in Smithtown for our residents. One of the things that we're the most proud of is, to date, we actually have about $100,000 left in the appropriated snow budget. We budgeted $1.9 million. We've spent about 1.8, and we do have some contingencies that we have not touched. So at this particular time, if we do not get another storm, which we hope we don't, but we can't count on that, we're going to fare very well. We will bring our budget in right on the money. And you're right, every news broadcast you've seen everywhere else, they've all run in the red. So my hat's off to Glenn and his men and those other departments. They really did a terrific job.
And the speed and efficiency to which Mr. Jorgensen got the people out there was really something.
Right. We're always proud of that. Smithtown's been notorious. I think everybody would agree with that over the years. I've been there a long time. I remember in my parks days, petroleum salesmen that would come from primarily New Jersey would traverse out to the East End and back doing their sales to municipalities, and they always referenced that. You can tell when you hit the Smithtown borders. It's like night and day. So we're pretty proud of that, and Glenn has carried on that tradition. Our residents were able to get out in the mornings and get to work or get to the train station. Schools primarily were just 2-hour delays, so they really did, in under terrible circumstances, do a terrific job and get our residents up and running early in the morning.
So residents happy, kids not so happy.
Well,
because they have to
true.
go to school.
Kids maybe not so happy, but residents happy, yes. But they'll be happy at the end of the year when they don't have to elongate the school year, so they'll benefit there.
And people, I don't think, really realize how much work really goes into, because the highway department just doesn't take care of their roads, but there's all the town complexes that have to be taken care of, and town hall and the town hall parking lot and all these other parking lots.
Yeah,
Right?
they really don't. It's something that if you don't do it, you wake up. Truthfully, they've come to expect that the roads would be plowed. It's an immense amount of work. It really is. Our Parks Department take care of our railroad and municipal commuter lots. They have to have them cleared and sanded so commuters can get in there by around 4:30 a.m. because notoriously when we have storms like that, most people that would drive to the city to work will now take the railroad. So they're done. Highway, of course, are out on the roads getting all of the roads prepped. So it's an enormous amount of work with a large amount of equipment and manpower out there.
Yeah. Now, what's the real impact though on the highway as far as like the roads, finances, everything like that?
Well, one of the things that the resident may not realize is when it stops snowing, and I think it's very important that the residents of Smithtown understand, a winter like this has some severe ramifications. When the snow is over, the cost does not stop. And the reason for that is, I'll give you a little example. It's probably the toughest thing you can do with equipment. It's tough on the men. They work long hours and hard hours. But the equipment takes a beating. I can tell you in highway, we just received a report about 2 days ago. He had 4 engines blown in this past storm. That's about a $36,000 expenditure that we will have to undertake to put that equipment back on the road for the road program. Certainly, like all municipalities, potholes, once the thaw comes, will start. Glenn may have some roads that will have to be reconstructed that he did not plan on because of this severe winter. Another aspect that people don't realize are we will be putting some money out in the form of claims. People just don't understand that. We have, I'm sure, hundreds of mailboxes destroyed, not on purpose, but just by the mere nature of the work. We have a policy in place whereby highway goes out and replaces or repairs those mailboxes. There's going to be, it's just part of the business, damage to private vehicles. We'll be receiving claims. We've had some come in already. So the cost really doesn't stop. It continues to mount up, and that can be problematic if it's not handled properly.
My next question, Ed, and again, pertaining to highway and the snow that has been devastating this year, what about the Smithtown parks and the other departments? How does this snowfall affect them? I mean, is there a lot of erosion at the Smithtown beaches, or are there a whole bunch of other things that are unaccounted for?
Well, there very well could be. They're in the process right now, as this snow melts down, of inspecting these facilities to get back to the town board with a report. In our parks and beach department, we don't actually plow most of the facilities. We do plow a few of them, but not too many. It's minimal. And the reason for that is the parks are primarily locked in the winter. Nobody's in them. And quite frankly, we don't want people in them because of liability reasons.
Right.
So we don't expend manpower or use our equipment going in and clearing those parks out. So once it snows like it did this winter, the snow remains in that park until such time as it melts. And then they'll go out and make an assessment of damages. The town buildings, there could be some curb damage. I've seen some evidence of that, minor, but from the plowing operations. You don't really know, but they'll be inspecting the roofs, any kind of leakage in any of the town buildings. And these are all things that happen from a severe winter. I mean, I think there's some homeowners that have experienced ice damage on their roof, and when you have a winter like this, some leaks in the home, and the town buildings and facilities are no different. We have to ascertain what needs to be repaired and then go to work on that.
Now, does the town of Smithtown also help out the villages that are within the town of Smithtown?
We do not plow the villages. We do supply them with salt sand that they need. The villages are plowed by private contractors. What the town does do, we do take care of the state highways, and then we are reimbursed by the state of New York. Villages, just the salt sand is supplied to them. They do not really have an avenue to purchase it, so they purchase it from us, and then we're reimbursed for that material.
Now, in the town of Smithtown also, because this was such a blockbuster winter, for 2011, should this happen again. What steps are the towns going to take for like the restoration of the parks and its buildings and
Well,
other things?
one of the things that's problematic, and it has happened a few times in the past, is the fact that the Parks Department has a system to get our facilities up and running for the season. And what happens, this is a deterrent to that policy because, quite frankly, they will get a late start. If it snowed, if it was a minimal amount of snow in the winter months, they would already be working on facilities. For example, they may be delivering picnic tables that have been refinished down to those facilities. They may be taking care of some of the beach pavilions, restrooms, actually have carpenters and plumbers working in those facilities. A winter like this prohibits us from doing that. So just by the mere nature, they will get a late start on prepping these facilities, and that adds a lot to the workload.
And a lot of people don't realize that those beautiful historic buildings that are in Smithtown, which are going back to like the 16th, 17th century, taking that type of beating from this winter. I mean, how does the town manage it? I mean, does that go through the Parks Department where the historic buildings have to be fixed? Is there grants involved? Or?
Right. Well, there are some grants that we can apply for. We budgeted about in 2004. We budgeted $500,000 and did $500,000 worth of renovation work to 2 or 3 of the houses that were in the worst condition. Certainly, Parks has to take a look at that. And you're right, historical sites like that, they're really the most fragile for obvious reasons. So they'll be looked at closely. And any repairs that have to be made, certainly we want to keep those houses up to the standard that we like them. Many of our schools bring students through there. It's a great way to learn about Smithtown's history. So whatever we have to do to keep them up, we will.
Now, also, the Landing Avenue Country Club. How was that affected by this winter and all?
Well, more than likely, we have not received a report from Chris Hesselin. He's the superintendent. MPH Management, as you know, operates that country club for us. I'm sure there was some tree damage. Barring any vehicles that got on the course, which can happen from time to time, and they're out there unauthorized, I have not heard of that, but he'll also be doing his inspections. And the same thing that I just explained complicates the opening of the country club for Hebron Management, because they'll go down on that golf course now. There's still, in some of the valleys, Landing is a notoriously hilly golf course. You still have a 5 or 6 foot snowpack in some of those valleys. And he cannot get to the grass surfaces until it's all melted, and quite frankly, the thaw comes out because it's too soft and too muddy to bring his equipment on there. So MPH Management will be also hustling. It's across the board. It's to get them up and running on time will be a monumental task after a winter like this.
Let's talk more about. We've already filled up a lot about the winter because it was so devastating. But as we look forward to 2011 in Smithtown, what are some of the incentives that you and the council are coming up with? New ideas, new approaches.
Well, one of the things we're working on, aside from our normal course of business, as you know, the economy is still bad. It hasn't recovered fully. As a matter of fact, I just received a report this morning. Our building department receipts, which have been up. I think the last time I was here, we were up for the 2 months in a row in revenues. We just received a report today. Unfortunately, they're down for the month of January compared to last January, about $30,000 for the month. I'm hoping, and I contribute that to the severe winter, that contractors just weren't doing much work, didn't come in and take permits out to do renovation or new construction. So we hope that's the case. But one of the most important things that we feel are that we have to continue to improve our commercial and industrial zoned properties. The reason for that, Larry, is I believe, and I think my colleagues on the board believe also, if you have a deteriorated commercial business district or an industrial district, it's going to eventually lessen the assessed value of a residential home. So very important that we keep that up. And Councilman Creighton and myself have taken kind of an active role with our colleagues. We've kind of led the charge with our land use departments. and we've brought quite a bit of great development back
Right.
into Smithtown.
Now, just to touch on, we touched on it at the very beginning. I just want to touch on it again. The bond rating in Smithtown and some of the capital projects for 2011.
Right. The bond rating is still double A1. It's the second best bond rating that you can achieve by Moody's. And that's a good thing in the form that we have about a $2 million borrowing in our capital budget this year. So you're looking at somewhere borrowing that money in the vicinity of about 3%, which is a terrific interest rate when we do have to borrow money. So our capital budget that we proposed is about $2 million. The bonds will be going out sometime in March of this year. Primarily, again, being frugal in Smithtown, what we have done, a lot of the equipment that's being purchased is monitoring equipment for underground fuel tanks and also for 2 or 3 facilities that were ex-landfills for methane detection. The equipment that's in there has been failing over the years, so we're going to replace that. It's actually mandatory by state regulations, so we'll be doing that. There is some vehicle equipment in the capital budget. We've appropriated some funding for gas generators, which will be used in our high water table area, so that in the event that LIPA goes out and there's no electric, the pumps that prevent those streets from flooding in those areas will continue to run. They'll kick on to generator and run that way. We're doing some improvements at our Firematic Training Center for our volunteer fire departments. We're going to be putting up a new training tower. It's actually been down for about 5 years. And that's really the extent of the borrowing. We did not go beyond that, although Bob Creighton and myself did discuss speaking to Glenn Jorgensen after he assesses the road work.
Right.
If we need to, a discussion could be underway about bonding some money for some road improvements, but we don't know if that will be necessary.
Right. And so until this winter's out of here totally, we're not going to make that judgment.
No, we won't. Right now, we have about a $2 million borrowing, and we're leaving it at that right now.
Now, back on the previous show, Ed, and both you and Bob from the council have constantly pushed for the small business owners in Smithtown and trying to keep that area flowing, that whole corridor along 25. Recently, you've wanted to do something with some of the vacant commercial property over there. Can you mind telling the audience a little bit about that?
Well, there's as you know, across from Town Hall, the old Smithtown Lumberyard and the old Chow's Hospital, Smithtown General Hospital, a developer has those parcels. He purchased them. He did not follow through with his project as of yet. We don't know. He has condominiums slated for the old Smithtown General Hospital site. However, recently there has been some larger developers coming in looking at those properties. Bob, I could not make it, but Councilman Creighton has attended a meeting with Blumenthal developers. They're looking at that particular site for a development. It's actually like an indoor country club. I believe there's one in Syosset. It's supposed to be just a fantastic piece of development. Nothing in stone yet, but they're actually looking at that site for that type of development. We also have some development issues on Northport Road. I think we discussed that with the heavy industry.
Yes.
One of the contractors there, Carlson Precast, are looking to put a new state-of-the-art asphalt plant there. They're in the process of submitting their site plans. We have indoor soccer complex proposed for a vacant piece of property on Indian Head Road and Old Northport Road. So we're starting to see some movement on Northport Road where we want to redevelop that heavy industry area and make it more pleasing to the eye for our Smithtown and Kings Park residents.
Now, both you and Bob from the council had said last time you had mentioned on the show was that one of the things that you really want to do in Smithtown this year and try to focus on is job creation and trying to create jobs in Smithtown, keep everything local, keep all the residents over there working.
Sure. Well, my belief is, and I know Bob's is, government isn't going to create jobs. We hear it all the time on the national news. I'm a firm believer in that. It's the private sector that's actually going to create jobs. And a perfect example is I started in 2004 with the Smith Haven Mall redevelopment.
Right.
I was intricately involved in that, and it was a real pleasure to do. It was a $90 million renovation. It's about $1.3 million in additional tax ratables coming into Smithtown, and Simon Properties did a wonderful job.
Right.
I will cite a couple more areas. We just finished on top of the mall. Then recently, as of a month ago, just completed was the vacant home expo building, which is over in Comac on the PJ Venture property, a Super ShopRite supermarket. Bob and I worked fairly hard on to get that in there.
Right.
It's a $17.3 million renovation just on the interior. It's a 75,000 square foot supermarket. So not only the construction jobs that are created by doing projects like this, but I know the ShopRite, I think it was over 100 full-time jobs. We introduced Bob's Furniture to Smithtown. They
Right.
were over across from the Smith Haven Mall. I think he claimed at the ribbon cutting that he created 36 jobs there.
Right.
So you have the construction aspect where you're putting construction people to work, and then you also have some full-time employment.
Right.
So very important that we continue on that path.
And also, didn't you come forth with a tax incentive for some of these people because we want them to come into Smithtown, right?
Well, we don't really have Smithtown. We've been discussing that issue. Some municipalities have it. One of the things that is working out, fortunately for us, is we do not in Smithtown have a tax incentive for them to come in. Yet they're still coming in. So we're not lessening the tax burden. It remains the same or increased, and that's really a plus. But at some point, if you want the larger development schemes to come in to compete with our surrounding municipalities, we are discussing that with our planning people, as we speak. Most of that would probably have to take place in the Hauppauge Industrial Park.
Right. Now, just to touch on briefly before we wrap up, Kings Park project, what's going on with that?
The Psych Center?
Yeah.
Well, right now it's in limbo. As you know, we have a new governor. The previous governor really didn't do anything with the property. The state has invited us to a meeting about a month ago, and they had an RFQ, request for a quote, from a company to come in and assess how much it would cost the state of New York to clean up the entire site, abate all the pollutants, and their figure is $214 million. I don't believe the state has that money. What they're doing immediately, they have 14 buildings slated for demolition. And Senator Flanagan had put, I believe it was $25 million in a budget about 2 years ago. That has remained there. And we're being told that they will use some of that funding to take those buildings down. Of course, we're still interested in any talks the state may want to have
Right.
For rec facilities and things like that, joint ventures. But we have not yet. We're really waiting for the Cuomo administration to get settled down. They're in their budget process. And hopefully when that's all finished and they make their park commissioner appointments, et cetera, we'll have an opportunity to speak to the state.
Now, Ed, we did programs, as you know, Town Clerk Update with your good friend and fellow colleague, Vinny Pulio. And Vinny was telling us about how technology is trying to save Smithtown more money, things he's done around the clerk's office. One of the things that's really amazing that has come up is the LED streetlights in Smithtown. Now, one of these streetlights, you could match like 1,000 of them to equal one of the old streetlights as far as electrical use is concerned. You want to tell the public a little bit more about that?
Sure. It is very advanced. It's the new wave for lighting highways, public highways. We were fortunate enough to receive a grant. I think it was $250,000. I'm not really sure, but in that vicinity. And our traffic department has begun the process of installing them. They'll probably finish up by the end of this season. So far, certainly they light the highways much better in a much more direct way. And we don't have a handle on the savings, but we will at the end of this operating year.
Right.
We'll have the controller compare. But we do know through municipalities who have done it, it will be a drastic savings in electric bills because it's extremely costly to light. We have 450 miles of highway in Smithtown, so it's
Right.
extremely expensive to light it all.
So it's good to see that Smithtown's going green, which is going to reduce the amount of money it has to spend on electricity, which basically everybody's trying to do now.
Right.
And it's a better way of going because you're getting a better product, okay, and it's costing you less money.
No, absolutely, and we are continuing on our green initiatives. The vehicles, we're purchasing some natural gas vehicles. Our natural gas service station is open at our MSF facility, and Huntington Carters and as well as Smithtown are using that. So we're certainly not abandoning that. We're going to continue on that method. We're going to begin, I believe, early spring on putting the solar panels, which was budgeted in 2010,
Right.
on our multiple service facility, which is probably one of the biggest electric users in the town. It's a huge building where we do all our recycling. So we're going to be outfitting that with solar panels. Another thing that we're involved in are cell towers. We're having actually tomorrow night, we have a night board meeting. We're going to have public hearings on 2 of the sites. And those are revenue makers. They do not disturb the residents because they'll be constructed on the highway property, public safety property, and we have one proposed for the MSF facility. And what happens is once they're up and constructed, the carriers that go on those utility poles, there'll be monopoles, they pay revenues to the town of Smithtown. So we're anticipating the possibility of $250,000 a year coming in revenue. So that's a great revenue stream, and it increases service in the areas as well as public safety for police, fire. All of those telephone services and radio services will be enhanced by the installation of these. And one other issue that I'm quite interested to see is there is still a proposal. I think they're out for an RFQ right now for a windmill at the MSF facility. That's something I'm very interested in seeing. If it does come to fruition, I'm interested to see how that works.
So Ed, will you come back and do another council update before the summertime? Let everybody know how we fared through this winter, how the numbers went, and what to look forward in beautiful Smithtown this summer.
Sure, no, absolutely. As I've said before, Larry, I think this is a terrific service for our Smithtown residents. It gives us an avenue through you to inform them on what's going on. And once the winter clears, most of what we discussed today, I can be glad to come back and give a report on exactly where we stand.
And I thank you for showing up, Ed. Well, until next time, here for the Smithtown Government Access Channel, I'm Larry Mike Arenda with my guest, Ed Werheim. We look forward to seeing you here, right here in Smithtown. Hopefully we get to put those snow shovels away. You take care.